All right, welcome back, everyone. We've been talking about tiling background graphics, and I thought it would be a good idea to see some examples of how others have tiled their background graphics as a way of kind of showing you some of the ways you can use these techniques. And so I decided to go to the CSS ZenGarden to try to find some examples. Now, if you're not familiar with this site, every page that you're about to see, you can see all my tabs open here. Each of the ones I'm about to show you are all part of the CSS ZenGarden. They all use the exact same HTML file, and each one uses different graphics and CSS. So it's all the idea of that you can take one page and give it all kinds of designs. Now, I just want to show you it's just csszengarden.com. You can click View on All Designs, and you can take a look. And I'll tell you, though, this thing has been around for a long time. And so the more recent ones towards the front are more modern designs that take into account like mobile devices and things. But as you look at some of the older designs, you'll see that these are actually much older design techniques that maybe not are used as much anymore. But they're great examples of how you can mess around with background graphics, tile them in different ways. So in my last tutorial, I showed you some where we tiled from left to right. I want to show you a couple more. And so you'll notice right here, it's the Zen Army. I'm going to close this for a second here, because if you take a look, you can probably guess which where the tiling graphic is. It's along the top. Okay. So you have all these tanks here, and you never know what size your browser is going to be. So you need to make sure if they're on like a screen opens up like here or it opens up here, you're still going to be able to read the text. You're still going to be able to see all that. And so we'll go ahead and maximize this. And you can tell that this background graphic either has to be enormous or it's small and it's just getting tiled. Well, it's small and it's getting tiled. So let's take a look and see how it's done. So the best way to find this out is to use your developer tool. And in Chrome, you have this little menu way off to the right. If you click it and you go to More Tools, you can find Developer Tools. Now in Chrome, it's Control-Shift-I. However, the F12 key on a Windows keyboard a lot of times will open up the Developer Tools. If you're on a Mac, you don't have that F12, or it may not work. So just go to the menu, More Tools, Developer Tools. All major browsers have a form of this. And one of the things that you want to do is you want to make sure Elements is selected. And then a lot of times when it just pops open, you may see what you're looking for right there. In this case, we're looking at the body, and it has a background image. But one of the things I notice is it says no repeat, bottom left. And so that's not the graphic I'm looking for. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this, which lets me select item. So if you want to see what graphic is being used or how it's being done on any individual section, you can just click it and see. But what we're going to do is we're going to scroll to the top, and usually background graphics that are tiling are applied to the body or possibly in the head, or not head, but in the HTML, excuse me. So in the HTML, sure enough, there's a graphic, and it says top ground JPEG, or at least that's what it looks like they're trying to say. It's abbreviated. And you'll see repeat X. So that means it's repeating from left to right, and the top means position it at the top of the screen. The other thing you'll notice is there's this sand-colored color that's the background color. And you can probably guess it's this color that's a little bit lower on the screen. So in order to test this out and see what image they are using, let's just copy this right out of here. So where it says URL inside, notice that's a relative link. I'm just going to copy this, and I'm going to try copy link address and see if I can get that open. And I'm just going to paste and go. Sure enough. And see, there's the graphic right there. So you can see this graphic is not very wide, and it's not even that tall, but it just tiles from left to right, thereby creating that sky background. And then they superimposed this set of tanks and the whole items, all of this right here in the header. And that's the header.jpg. And you can copy the link address to that as well. And just to show how this is kind of working, let's go ahead and open the tab, paste and go. And as you can see, they put all of that in one graphic and just stuck it in as the background for the header. And when you put this graphic on top and this one underneath, and you tile this one left to right, you end up with the top screen that looks like so. So that's how you can combine multiple graphics and it shows another left to right. Let's take a look at one last left to right graphic, and it's over here, and it's this particular one. I think it's called Undersea. And one of the things that's kind of interesting about this website is if you scroll down, you'll see these images on the bottom of the page stay exactly where they are. And that's kind of clever. I like that. It's an interesting design. Since we're talking about tiling graphics, I'm going to wait on that. And I'm just going to jump to talk about this that runs across the top. Now, in this case, we have all these ripples on the water. And so this is not something you can just do as a narrow graphic. You need a wider graphic. So let's see how they did it. So I'm going to type the F12 key on my Chrome. I see that the body tag is right here, and there's a graphic called water. So I'm going to copy that link address. I'm going to open it up, paste it in, hit enter. And as you can see, I was right, it's much wider. And the reason why it's much wider is that it allows you to create a variety of details that you are using to sort of create that effect. So it's kind of like you're looking from underwater, and you can see how like there's like little like light is kind of shining through in different areas. It's kind of that effect you might see if you're underwater. And it's called Undersea, so it makes sense, right? So there's the final graphic, and here it is here. And as you can see, we have another repeat X, and we have another color, and that bottom color matches the bottom of this image as well. And as long as this bottommost row of pixels is all the same color, then it will seamlessly integrate, with the rest of this page. So again, it's the same technique. It's a repeat X, and it sort of goes down to a certain color, and the bottom row of color is the same as the background color on the page. So that's a very straightforward technique. Let's move along and let's take a look at a vertical tiling graphic. And on here, we have the Dr. Shay's Miraculous CSSN, and this is sort of a pun. It was the maker of the, oh crap, what was his name? All right, I apologize, Dave Shay. Dave Shay, he's the one that came up with this idea. Really, really much a pioneer of CSS design. I really thank him for this. And we'll take a look at this particular one. And you see the graphic, the border on the left, the border on the right. As we scroll down, you can see that it's got a lot of detail. So this is a little bit longer of a graphic, but there's a lot of scrolling we can do to scroll down. And you'll see there's a horizontal graphic that's doing sort of the same thing as well. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. I like this design. So I do the F12 once again, and I'm looking for that graphic. It's not on the body. So I'm going to go to this page wrapper, and sure enough, on the page wrapper, we can see this image, LG, vert, border, repeat, Y, top left. And then notice this, we have another URL after a comma that is a repeat Y, right. And so what they're doing is they're taking the same, I think it's the same graphic. Yeah, it's the same exact graphic, and they're just styling it two separate times. Once they're positioning on the left, the other they're positioning on the right, so that it's the same graphic, but it appears on both borders on either side of the window. They're both using repeat Y, which means tile from top to bottom. And let's go ahead and take a look at the graphic in its own tab. And there it is. You can see this is much longer, right? And one of the things you'll notice about this is we zoom in, and we really zoom in, I would venture to guess that the right-hand pixel on here and the left-hand pixel is all one color, all the way down from top to bottom. Not only that, but I would venture to guess it's the same color as the background color of the page. Okay? So I could be right, I could be wrong, but that's how I would do it. That's how I'd make it seem more seamless. Okay, so look at, I believe I had just one more design here. And let's zoom out again. And here's another, oh no, there's two more designs. This one also has a top to bottom, but as you can see, there's a graphic along the top that sort of integrates with this top to bottom graphic. But let's just see what that is. Here's our graphic. Notice once again we have another background color. Now what I notice here is this is all one shorthand background. So we have the color, we have the URL, we have the repeat, and then we have the position, which is top left. So we're going to go ahead and look at that graphic. And there you have it. Also, this is a wider graphic, and you'll notice the way this color works, it kind of goes over here, and there's a little bit of a jagged edge over there. And let's just take a look at how that sort of goes together. So you see, here's the page on the left. There's the background graphic. And you'll notice it's a little different at the top, and the reason why is there's a different graphic at the top. That's part of the page wrapper, and that's this graphic right here. And that one, oh, that was the same one. Sorry, I chose the wrong file. I'm looking at the wrong one. Yeah, I'm going to click on here. There it is, Pix Header. That's the one I'm looking for. And that one's like a full-size graphic. And the one thing you'll note is the bottom of this graphic should integrate exactly with the one that scrolls along the side. Okay, so sometimes you can overlap your different graphics. If you apply one scrolling to the body, then all you have to do is take another tag, like the wrapper or the section or the header in this case, excuse me. And if you apply background graphic, that will go on top of the other background graphic. And you just want to make sure that they sort of integrate just right. If instead of top left, I make it -10 px, that moves it up a little, and we may see a little jagged edge on there. I don't quite see that, but that's one of the things that you can kind of play around with. All right, the last one I just want to show you is this particular design, and I like this. You got a little cityscape on the right, and as you scroll down, check that out. It's like the cities stay in one spot, and everything else scrolls. And doesn't it look like those are two separate graphics, these buildings and the sky? So would you say that the sky is staying in one place? You might think that, but that's actually not what's going on. That's actually a scrolling graphic as well. The sky is scrolling just like anything else. Don't believe me? See? So that sky is scrolling just like everything else. The only difference is the gradient is uniform from top to bottom. So you can't see that gradient on the right moving when you see the rest of it move. And so this thing is positioned on the right-hand side. And there's one little trick that they use, and that is everything else. Let's just kind of close this for a moment. All of your content fits within this region of color. And the reason why they did that, or the way they made that work, is they just set a right-hand margin. So let's just take a quick look at that. Somewhere the margin is being set. I'd venture to guess it's in the page wrapper. They set the width here. There is no margin set there, so maybe not. There it is. We're floating the intro to the left. That puts it on the left-hand side. The main supporting is also floated to the left. And then the aside is not, but I wouldn't be surprised if the aside has it has a padding right here, top padding, and then no other padding. And there it is. There's your margin. So that margin right there, 570 pixels, pushes it away from the left. And as long as it's set the size, you don't have to worry. It will fit. So it really wasn't a right-hand margin like I thought it was. But as you can see, these items on the left are floated. This one is not, but it has a left-hand margin. And then the width is just narrow enough that everything else fits inside. So anyway, there's your overview of different ways you can tile your background graphics. And let's just look at some of the graphics themselves. Here's a nice wide one. And yet, because it tiles top to bottom, it makes it a very interesting design that you can sort of scroll and you don't see the repetition quite as easily as you would on another top to bottom tile. Here's just a standard random header that coincides with the other one, which I think I moved over here, yeah. And then we have the water, which tiles left to right. And then I think we had a couple other ones. There's the other one for that. Also left to right. So there's all kinds of endless variations you can do. So in my next tutorial, I'll show you a little bit about how to make sure your graphics line up right and how that you can tile them more seamlessly. Stay tuned for that.